Now, before we get into the actual methodology, I want to discuss general traits I look for in a good private label product. Now, there's no black and white here. These are just my preferences. Feel free to break the rules, but initially, you really have to learn the rules before you can break them, in my opinion. So I would say for your first product or first few products, you're going to want to stick to these guidelines. But then once you have some experience, then you can break the rules and you can do some kind of interesting things. And I'll show you an example of kind of breaking the rules on purpose later in this module. But just some general traits, and a lot of these are kind of common sense. Number one, I love impulse buyers on Amazon, right? So generally speaking, the way that people make online buying decisions, there are people that are very impulsive, and so there are certain type of products that are in the impulse buyer sweet spot. The type of buyer that I don't want to attract is what is called the analytical. This is the type person who is typically like an engineer or an accountant, and they will make a spreadsheet and they will read every review. They will read the details of every listing. They will read through every pre-purchase question. They will spend a month making like a $20 purchase of a wallet. Okay? It doesn't make them wrong. It's just how they're wired. I don't want those type of buyers because I got to pay my bills. So there's a certain sweet spot, a certain type of product on Amazon that is like a nightlight for attracting impulse buyers, like flies to light or whatever the saying is, you know what I mean. So I love the impulse buyers. And in fact, later on in a later module, we'll get into how to write your listing to appeal to these impulse buyers. But if you think about it, and this is kind of logical, but I bet you've never really thought about this, there's a certain price range where, yes, you know what, it's cheap enough, boom, I'm just going to buy it. I don't have to give it too much thought. Once you breach a certain price, then it kind of slows you down a little bit. You got to well, okay, this is $95. I guess I should give this a little more thought, or the wife or the husband's going to be mad at me when they see that on the bill, right? So there's a certain impulse buyer sweet spot of pricing. And on Amazon, I found that's on the low side of $10 up to about $65. That seems to be the sweet spot where, yes, I want this. Yes, it's an emotional purchase. Yes, I'm going to add it to cart and check out today, right now, with very little thought. That's what we want. We want purchases with very little thought. We don't want anything to slow down that impulse buyer. Okay? Again, these are just, general rules of thumb. There's always exceptions to these rules, but these are pretty safe parameters here. Second, only products that have proven buying demand. Now, I covered that on the previous video at a high level. Don't worry, we will be getting into the specific criteria to make Amazon prove to us, make the marketplace prove to us there's a lot of buying demand going on. Also, what I look for is the potential to plant my flag in a niche. I know a lot of Amazon sellers that take more of what I would call the hodgepodge approach, meaning they are agnostic to the niche. So they might have a dog product 1 month, the next month they're going to release a beauty product, then they're going to release like an auto product. Like they don't care what the niche is. And they're very successful. But I also know a lot of successful people that take my approach, which is we like to plant our flag within a niche. And so I'm not in the dog niche, but that's a great example. Like if I find that I am uncovering a lot of good pet type products or dog type products, and my first product ends up being a dog product and it's doing pretty well, I'm very tempted to just kind of plant my flag in that niche and to specialize in dog products. Helps me with my branding, with my logo, with my product research. I'm not saying you have to do that, but if you find that that's more kind of your approach, I found it to be very profitable and very efficient to do it, because sometimes you can use the exact same manufacturers who private labeled your dog leash, and you find out they also private label and can do several different type of dog products. So you can use the same manufacturer and you can multiply your product line that much faster. And you also have a better relationship because you're ordering more product from the same supplier. Okay. So just something to keep in the back of your mind. So for impulse buyers though, that price point is pretty critical. I would not unless you know what you're doing, I would not go under $10 because the economics are tough to make an adequate profit. I mean, that being said, there's always exceptions to the rule. Sometimes I know somebody who's a student of mine who was able to source a product. He sources it for about 35 cents and he sells it for $8. That is a big profit. So just, again, generally speaking, the impulse price sweet spot is 10 to 65, but don't rigidly stick to these guidelines, okay? Weight. So we want like a cheaper to medium price product that's lightweight and that is relatively small. Why? Well, you already learned that from Module 1. Okay, you tell me why. Why do we want that lightweight? And why do we want it not oversized? That's right, because we want to minimize our FBA fees that they charge us, the fulfillment fees, right? And so I would say that you want to keep things very, very simple for this first product, at least for the first couple products, and stick to these guidelines, and it'll keep you out of trouble.